I've spent my life learning how to stay silent, how to smile without explaining, how to protect what matters by keeping it private. But today, I can't do that anymore because some love doesn't want secrecy. Some love doesn't survive in the shadows. Some love stands up, looks the world in the eye and says, "This is real. This is forever." I didn't plan to announce it. I didn't rehearse this moment, but when something changes your soul, hiding it feels like lying to yourselves. So this isn't a confession. It's not a headline. It's not about fame or noise. It's about choosing one person and choosing them out loud. Today, I'm not playing a role. I'm not behind a screen. I'm just a man who knows one truth. I can't hide my wedding anymore. Love doesn't always arrive like a celebration. Sometimes it comes quietly, sits beside you, and waits to see if you are brave enough to notice it. I used to believe that the strongest things in life were the ones you protected by silence. That if you kept something sacred and small, the world couldn't touch it. I thought love was safest when it stayed unnamed, unannounced, when it lived in ordinary moments that no one applauded. I believed that if I didn't speak it, it would last longer. And for a while that felt true. It felt peaceful. It felt controlled. It felt like I was doing the right thing by not letting they ask you to stand by them on hard days, not just easy ones. And that kind of commitment is not something you announce lightly. It's something you arrive at after you've tested your heart in ordinary life, after you've seen how love behaves when no one is watching. What changed me wasn't a grand gesture. It was consistency. It was waking up day after day and realizing that love was still there, still steady, still choosing me the same way I was choosing it. It was seeing how two imperfect people could create something calm instead of chaotic, something supportive instead of demanding. Love stopped feeling like a rush and started feeling like a home. And when something becomes your home, you don't keep it a secret. You don't talk about it like it's temporary. You don't act like you might leave at any moment. You plant yourself there. You commit to the work it takes to stay. I can admit now that part of me liked the safety of not explaining. There's comfort in ambiguity. If you don't define something, no one can question it. If you don't announce it, no one can judge it. But love isn't asking to be defended, it's asking to be honored, and honoring love sometimes means standing up and saying, "This is my life now, this is the person I walk with, this is the promise I'm making." Not because anyone demanded it, not because the world needs to approve, but because truth has weight, and carrying it openly feels lighter than carrying it alone. This isn't about attention. It's not about spectacle. It's about alignment. When your inner world no longer matches what you show the outside, something feels off. I reached a point where my heart was living louder than my words, where my actions were already committed even if my voice hadn't caught up yet. I was already building a life, already planning in plural instead of singular, already thinking in terms of we instead of I. At that point, silence stopped being humility and started being avoidance. And I've learned that avoiding the truth doesn't make it gentler. It just postpones the moment you finally have to meet it face to face. There's a seriousness to this kind of love that I respect deeply. It's not dramatic. It doesn't demand applause. It shows up on tired days. It listens more than it speaks. It forgives without keeping score. It chooses patience when ego would be easier. This is the kind of love that doesn't need to prove itself, because it's already proven in 1,000 small ways. And when you know that kind of love, you stop running from commitment. You stop seeing it as a loss of freedom and start seeing it as clarity. You realize that choosing one person fully is not shrinking your world, it's giving it a center. So when I say I can't hide my wedding anymore, what I really mean is that I can't pretend this love is anything less than what it is. I can't act like this is a phase or a possibility or a maybe. It's a decision that's already been made in the quiet parts of my life, in the moments that mattered most. Saying it out loud isn't changing the truth, it's finally matching it. It's letting my words catch up to my heart. It's accepting that some things deserve to be named, not for the world's sake, but for your own integrity. I know that once you speak something like this, life expects you to live up to it. It expects responsibility, patience, growth. And I'm not saying that from a place of illusion. I know marriage isn't a finish line. It's a commitment to keep choosing, especially when it's uncomfortable. It's a promise to stay present when leaving would be easier, to communicate when silence would be safer, to build when tearing down would feel faster. And I'm ready for that, not because I think it will always be easy, but because I know who I'm doing it with. There's peace in that certainty. Not the loud kind, not the kind that celebrates itself, but the quiet kind that settles into your bones. The kind that lets you breathe a little deeper because you're no longer undecided. The kind that makes the future feel less like a question, more like a path. And once you feel that, hiding starts to feel dishonest, not to others, but to yourself. I reached a point where silence felt heavier than honesty. Keeping this to myself felt like denying something sacred the respect it deserves. This is me choosing truth over comfort, choosing openness over habit, choosing to stand in my life instead of hovering on the edge of it. I didn't lose myself in this decision. I found a steadier version of myself, one that knows where it belongs and isn't afraid to say so. And while I've always believed that some things are better kept private, I've learned that some truths ask to be spoken, not loudly, not dramatically, but clearly, sincerely, without apology, because love that has carried you this far deserves to be acknowledged as the foundation it has become, the promise it already is, the future that has quietly taken shape, the commitment that no longer fits in silence, the choice that keeps showing up every day and asks to be met with the same courage, the same honesty, the same willingness to step forward and say, this is my life, this is my person, this is the direction I am walking in. Even if the road isn't perfect, even if the world has opinions, even if tomorrow brings challenges, because love like this doesn't ask for hiding places, it asks for presence, for truth, for the strength to stand still in your decision and let it be seen, let it be real, let it exist fully in the and without disguise, without hesitation, without retreat, without pretending it is anything other than the commitment that has already reshaped my days, my choices, my future, and the way I understand what it means to belong, to promise, to stay, to build, to move forward together, one honest step at a time, without looking back, without needing permission, without needing to explain further, just allowing the truth to stand where it belongs. In the light, unfinished, continuing, alive, becoming, still choosing, still growing, still holding space for everything that comes next, and everything that has already begun, and everything that will continue from here. As I step into this reality, carrying this love openly, no longer hidden, no longer unnamed, no longer waiting, but present, grounded, and moving forward with intention, with calm, with certainty, with a heart that knows exactly why it can no longer remain silent, why it refuses to stay unseen, why it has decided to be honest now, and why this moment exists at all, because love has already decided, and I am simply following it into what comes next, into what we are building, into the life that has already started, into the promise that is already being lived, into the truth that continues to unfold, right here, right now, without an ending, without a pause, without a final word, because this choice doesn't conclude, it continues, it moves, it breathes, it stays, it commits, it walks forward, still open, still becoming, still unfolding, still choosing, still here, still real, still ours, still moving, still alive, still unhidden, still spoken, still standing, still beginning. The choice didn't announce itself with certainty at first. It showed up as a quiet shift, subtle enough to miss if you weren't paying attention. It appeared in the way my days slowed down when this person was near, in how noise lost its urgency, how the world seemed less demanding. I didn't call it anything back then. I didn't try to define it or give it a future. I let it exist as it was, steady and uncomplicated. Because sometimes the most meaningful things don't need labels to feel real, they just need time. Time to prove they aren't temporary, time to show they aren't built on excitement alone, but on presence, patience, and consistency. I've always believed that the strongest decisions are the ones you don't rush, the ones that form while you're living your normal life, not while you're chasing a feeling. This choice didn't come from a dramatic moment or a sudden realization. It grew quietly in the background, shaped by ordinary days and unremarkable routines. It grew while sharing meals, while sitting in silence, while dealing with small frustrations that never turned into distance. It grew while learning each other's rhythms, understanding when to speak and when to simply stay. And over time, that quiet growth became something solid, something dependable, something that didn't need to be questioned anymore. What changed everything was noticing how natural it felt to choose the same person again and again without thinking about it. There was no debate, no weighing of options, no sense of sacrifice. The choice happened before the thought did. In decisions big and small, my mind already knew where it was going. Plans automatically included them. The future automatically made space for them. And when that pens, when inclusion becomes instinct, you realize you've already crossed a line you can't uncross. You've already committed in ways that matter more than words. You've already allowed your life to reshape itself around someone else. I didn't lose my independence in this process. I found clarity. There's a difference. Independence isn't about standing alone no matter what. It's about knowing who you are and choosing where you stand. And this choice didn't erase me. It refined me. It stripped away distractions, unnecessary doubts, and the constant need to keep options open. It replaced them with focus, with direction, with the calm that comes from knowing you're no longer searching. When you stop searching, you stop running. And when you stop running, you finally have the space to build something that lasts. There was a moment when I realized that this wasn't just love, it was alignment. Our values didn't compete. Our goals didn't pull us in opposite directions. Even our disagreements carried respect instead of resentment. That's when I understood that this choice wasn't about romance alone. It was about partnership, about walking at the same pace, even when the road changed, about choosing to face uncertainty together instead of pretending certainty exists alone. And once you experience that kind of partnership, the idea of not choosing it feels unnatural, almost impossible. This choice didn't come with promises spoken out loud at first. It showed itself through behavior, through reliability, through showing up when it mattered and staying when it would have been easier to leave. Love proves itself not in words, but in patterns. And the pattern here was unmistakable. Steady, respectful, grounded. I watched how trust formed without effort, how vulnerability didn't feel risky, how honesty didn't lead to conflict but to understanding. And slowly, quietly, the question stopped being whether this was the right choice and became how long I could pretend it wasn't already made. There's a responsibility that comes with choosing someone in this way. It means accepting their imperfections without trying to fix them. It means allowing yourself to be seen without armor. It means understanding that commitment isn't about perfection, it's about intention. And that intention was already there, living in the way we handled challenges, in the way we protected each other's peace, in the way we prioritize growth over ego. These are not things you stumble into. These are things you build deliberately, even when no one is watching. At some point, I realized that silence wasn't neutrality. It was a delay. My life was already reflecting this choice in every meaningful way. My actions had committed before my voice did. I was already standing in the place where this decision leads, already living the consequences of choosing one person fully. And when your life moves ahead of your words, something feels unfinished, not wrong, just incomplete. Like a sentence that hasn't been spoken all the way through. This choice changed how I understand strength. Strength isn't avoiding attachment. It isn't keeping distance to stay safe. Real strength is allowing yourself to be effective, to be shaped, to be accountable to someone else's presence in your life. It's trusting that you won't disappear just because you decided to stand beside someone. And that trust didn't come easily. It came from time, from experience, from seeing that love doesn't demand less of you. It asks for a better version of you. What surprised me most was how peaceful this decision felt once I stopped resisting. There was no rush of adrenaline, no dramatic sense of finality, just a deep, steady calm, the kind that settles in quietly and doesn't leave. The kind that doesn't need reassurance because it's rooted in reality, not fantasy. That calm became the clearest sign that this choice wasn't impulsive. It was earned through patience, through honesty, through showing up even when it wasn't easy or convenient. I didn't arrive here by accident. Every step mattered, every conversation mattered, every moment of doubt mattered because it forced reflection instead of blind commitment. And now, looking at the path behind me, I can see how deliberately this choice formed, how carefully it took shape, how naturally it became unavoidable. It wasn't forced, it wasn't rushed, it wasn't demanded, it was recognized. This choice changed how I see the future. Not as something uncertain or overwhelming, but as something shared. Shared responsibility, shared effort, shared growth. And with that sharing came a sense of purpose that didn't exist before. Not because my life lacked meaning, but because meaning deepens when it's connected to another person's well-being. When your actions matter beyond yourself. When your decisions carry weight because they affect someone you care about deeply. There's honesty required to admit that you've already chosen, even if you haven't said it yet. Honesty with yourself first. And that honesty is what led me here. to acknowledging that this choice is not new. It's been lived for a long time. It's been practiced in silence. It's been reinforced through consistency. And now it exists with or without words. Speaking it doesn't create it. It simply aligns everything else with what has already been true for a long time. This choice didn't limit my life. It focused it. It didn't close doors. It clarified which ones mattered. It didn't remove uncertainty from the world, but it removed it from my heart. And that kind of certainty doesn't come from excitement or fear. It comes from experience, from knowing, from understanding what it means to stay. I've learned that the quietest choices are often the most powerful. They don't need validation. They don't need approval. They just need acknowledgement. And this choice has been waiting for that acknowledgement, patiently, steadily, without pressure. Waiting for me to catch up to what my life already knew. Waiting for me to stop calling it something temporary when it was already permanent in practice. This is the kind of choice that changes how you stand in the world. You move differently, you listen differently, you care differently. Not because you have to, but because you want to. Because commitment, when it's right, doesn't feel like obligation. It feels like direction. And direction gives meaning to movement. It gives intention to effort. It turns everyday life into something deliberate. I didn't arrive at this choice by avoiding difficulty. I arrived by facing it. By seeing that, even on challenging days, even in moments of misunderstanding, the desire to stay never disappeared. And that desire is what matters most. Not perfection, not ease. The willingness to remain present, to continue choosing, to build rather than retreat. There was a time when privacy felt like the safest place to stand. Keeping things unspoken felt like control, like protection, like wisdom. I believed that if something mattered deeply, it didn't need to be explained or exposed. It could live quietly, untouched by opinions, untouched by expectations. I thought that was strength. And for a long time it worked. Silence gave me space. It allowed me to observe, to understand, to grow without pressure. It let love develop without interference, without noise. But over time, I realized that privacy and hiding are not the same thing, even though they can look similar from the outside. Privacy is a choice rooted in confidence. Hiding is a response rooted in hesitation. And somewhere along the way, without meaning to, I crossed that line. What started as intentional quiet slowly became avoidance. Not because I wasn't sure, but because I was. Certainty has a way of demanding responsibility, and responsibility changes everything. Once you admit to yourself that something is real, truly real, you can't treat it casually anymore. You can't pretend it's flexible when it's already firm. And that realization can be unsettling, even when it's welcome. I didn't become courageous overnight. Courage didn't arrive with a speech or a decision. It arrived in small moments, almost unnoticeable ones. Moments where staying silent felt heavier than speaking. Moments where withholding the truth felt less respectful than sharing it. I began to understand that courage isn't always loud. Sometimes it's simply the willingness to stop avoiding what you already know, to stop delaying the words that your actions have been speaking for a long time. The truth is, my life had already shifted. My priorities had already changed. My sense of responsibility had already expanded beyond myself. I was already living as someone who had chosen, even if I hadn't said it out loud. And when your inner life and your outer life stop matching, tension builds. Not dramatic tension, not visible tension, but a quiet discomfort that doesn't go away. A feeling that something important is being kept just slightly out of alignment. That feeling doesn't accuse you. It waits, patiently, until you're ready to face it. I realized that keeping this private was no longer about protecting something fragile. It was about protecting myself from the weight of acknowledging it fully. Because once you say something like this out loud, you're no longer standing halfway in. You're visible, accountable, grounded in your choice. And visibility has consequences. It invites expectation. It invites questions. It invites change. Even when you're prepared, that can feel intimidating. But courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision that honesty matters more than comfort. And I reached a point where comfort started to feel like stagnation, where staying quiet felt like standing still while my life was clearly moving forward. I understood then that courage wasn't asking me to rush or perform or explain everything. It was asking me to stop shrinking the truth to fit a version of myself that no longer existed. I had already grown into this decision. I had already adjusted my life around it. I had already accepted the responsibility it carries. So continuing to treat it like something tentative felt disrespectful, not just to the other person, but to myself. Courage, in this moment, meant honoring the reality I was already living. It meant letting my words finally reflect my actions, letting my voice catch up to my life. There's a vulnerability in admitting that something matters this much. Once you admit it, you can't pretend indifference anymore. You can't step back without consequence. You can't hide behind ambiguity. And that level of vulnerability requires strength, not the kind that dominates or resists, but the kind that stands still and allows itself to be seen, the kind that accepts that being known is part of being committed. I didn't choose courage because I wanted attention. I chose it because I wanted integrity. Because integrity means your inner truth and your outer expression are aligned. It means you don't live divided between what you know and what you show. And division, even quiet division, drains you over time. Alignment restores energy. It creates peace, not excitement, not relief, but steadiness. What surprised me was how natural courage felt once I stopped resisting it. It didn't feel like stepping into danger. It felt like stepping into clarity, like finally standing where I had already been walking toward for a long time. The fear didn't disappear, but it lost its authority. It no longer dictated my behavior. It became just another feeling, acknowledged but not obeyed. I learned that courage in love isn't about dramatic declarations. It's about consistency in truth, about saying what is, even when saying nothing would be easier, about allowing your life to be seen as it actually is, not as a version that feels safer to present. And once I accepted that, the weight I'd been carrying quietly started to lift. This shift didn't change my love, it clarified it. It didn't make it stronger by force. It revealed the strength that was already there, the strength that had been built through patience, through trust, through showing up without guarantees. Courage didn't create commitment. Commitment invited courage. I had to let go of the idea that staying private meant staying free. Freedom doesn't come from withholding truth. It comes from standing in it without flinching, from accepting the responsibilities that come with the choices you've made. And I had already made this choice in every way that mattered. I was already living the reality of it. Speaking it was not escalation. It was acknowledgement. There's a quiet dignity in owning your life fully and no longer hedging your words or softening your truths to keep things comfortable. Comfort is temporary. Clarity lasts. And clarity is what courage gave me. Not certainty about the future, but certainty about the present, about where I stand, about who I'm standing with. I stopped asking myself what might change if I spoke openly and started asking what was already changing because I hadn't. The answer was simple. I was delaying alignment, delaying honesty, delaying a moment that had already arrived internally. And delaying something inevitable doesn't make it easier. It just stretches the distance between who you are and who you're willing to admit you are. Courage in this sense wasn't about proving anything. It was about accepting something. Accepting that this love had moved beyond privacy and into responsibility. Accepting that it deserved to be treated with the seriousness it had already earned. Accepting that my silence was no longer neutral. It was a choice. And it was a choice that no longer fit the life I was living. So I stepped forward, not dramatically, not urgently, but deliberately, with the understanding that courage isn't a moment you perform, it's a position you take. A position rooted in honesty, in respect, in readiness to stand by what you've chosen. And once you take that position, you don't need to explain it endlessly. You simply remain there. This is what it looks like when privacy turns into courage. Not a sudden reveal, not a forced declaration, but a calm refusal to keep minimizing something that has already grown into a foundation. A decision to let the truth exist at full size. To stop folding it down to fit a smaller space. To allow it to stand openly, carrying its weight, its responsibility, its meaning. I didn't lose anything by choosing courage. I gained alignment. I gained steadiness. I gained the ability to stand fully inside my own life without holding part of it back. And once you experience that kind of alignment, there's no desire to return to half visibility. No need to retreat into silence for safety's sake. Because safety doesn't come from hiding what's real. It comes from living honestly inside it. allowing it to shape you, guide you, challenge you, and carry you forward openly, steadily, without apology, without retreat, without closing the door again, continuing on this path with clarity, with intention, with the quiet strength that comes from no longer dividing yourself, no longer withholding your truth, no longer keeping something meaningful in the shadows, but letting it exist where it belongs, fully present, fully acknowledged, fully ved, still unfolding, still ongoing, still moving forward, without a final moment, without an ending, without stepping away. Because courage, once chosen, doesn't conclude, it continues, it remains. It stays active in every step that follows, shaping the way you stand, the way you speak, the way you live, as the truth keeps moving forward alongside you, uninterrupted, unhidden, and real.